Hey everybody, what is up? And welcome to a Friday edition, a special Friday edition of Rocket Live. Really excited to be here today. I want to thank everybody on the East Coast here who's joining me a little bit earlier than I normally do the show, but that's all right because I have such an amazing guest here with me today, and I can't wait to get into our conversation. But before we do, just a couple quick things. I want to thank everybody right now who's watching this live. And, as usual, feel free to participate in the conversation as it goes. We'll be here and you can submit your questions, comments, whatever it is as we go along, and we will address them. I want to thank everybody who will watch this as a replay later on after it's finished, which you can watch immediately after it's done on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And also trying a very special experiment today, broadcasting this out on Instagram. So we'll see how that goes as well. And then, of course, you'll be able to listen to this as an audio version when I release this on the Rocket Growth Agency podcast, which you can get on any other streaming platforms. I would ask that you like, share, and subscribe to wherever you're watching this right now. So that way you stay notified every single time I go live and drop a new video. And also sharing helps. It helps the show, and it also helps the people that I have on as guests because we want to spread their message and make sure that everybody is seeing and listening to what they're talking about. So thank you guys, everybody, for joining us here today. So I want to welcome to the show my very special guest, Emma Jane Taylor. And Emma Jane Taylor is the CEO of The Works Company. She's also the host of the Emma Jane Show, which you could watch and listen to on YouTube and Spotify. She's the host of the Wellbeing Show and the Power Hour for Marlow, as well as the Be Real, Be You for Inspire Radio. And she's an author, too. you got it all cornered. And her name of her book is Don't Hold Back. So I'm just really excited to have you here today joining us on the show. And so thank you. Welcome.
Thanks, Chris. Great to be here. And thank you for having me. I love the intro music. I was really rocking out to that here. It's great to be here. Great to be here on your show. And you do such great work. So, thanks for inviting me too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And, just to kick this off, because you have such an amazing, powerful story. And if anybody who's been watching a promo, and you could actually right now in the actual post for this show, there's a full link to Emma's story. It's very powerful. And I had just a very unique opportunity to talk to Emma before we even did this interview, just to kind of get an understanding of her story and also how she's helping people and how she's transformed the trauma in her life and recovered from it, and how now she helps others to get over their trauma and helps them on their road to recover. So I just love the way that, when we were talking and all the different things you're involved in. So I want to talk about all that because I think it's very, very important for people to hear and understand what it is that you're doing. Right off the top, though, there was something that you have it on your LinkedIn page in your headline, and it was like the first thing that was on your bio. And I want to jump right out of the gate and address this because the Sun newspaper did a quote that said, "Girl going nowhere, the failure." And I want to talk about that, like right out of the gate. Like, what does that mean to you? I mean, because obviously I just read off, and your bio is truly amazing, and it's far from the failure. So
yeah, so
I'd love to hear your perception on that.
Okay, so that came from when I was in school. So, obviously, my story, my difficulties in life were in my senior school years. They'd actually started earlier, but the bulk of the troubles had started in my senior school. So I was really a naughty girl. I was really falling off the wagon as such, and just going through difficult times. Right. And while I was going through those difficult times, the teachers, the headmistress seemed to reprimand me more, tell me off more, chastise me more. Right. No one really kind of said, look, this girl's she was really nice when she started school. Clearly something's gone wrong in this girl's life because she's now super naughty. I was given psychiatric care when I was like 14 years old. They wanted to expel me from school. And so I got labeled a juvenile delinquent quite early on in school. I was labeled that. And then when I left school, my headmistress was, you're a failure. You're not going to go anywhere in life with that attitude. You're not coming back for sixth form. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't even want to come back.
Right.
But so it all stemmed from there, because I then lived like that for years, thinking I was a failure, thinking I was the girl going nowhere. And I was obviously dealing with a lot of stress and trauma in my life as well.
Right.
And so when you're dealing with that and you become paranoid, you think you're a failure, you think you're going to end up in the gutter, you start acting that way. And that was where my journey went. I was the girl going nowhere. I was the failure. But now I put a question mark to it.
Yes.
So, was I the girl going nowhere, and was I the failure? No, I wasn't. And no one watching here is either. No one is a failure. No one isn't going anywhere. It's how you mentally approach and emotionally look at these things that will define your opportunity and success. And I don't mean monetary success. How you become your success is how you really interpret that mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that, because it is so true, because it is mindset, right? I mean, you and I were talking about this, like everybody has everything, like you're born with all the things you need to succeed in life. It's just a matter of how you use them, how you tap into them. There really isn't anything extra you need than what you're already physically, and mentally capable of.
Yes.
And I feel like, that listening to you talk, reading a bit about your story, and I've been watching a lot of the episodes that you put out on your various shows, but they all have that very like same central theme, which I think is really good, and I think it's amazing that you do that. So let's talk a little bit about that too, because I feel like your foundation is definitely rooted in trauma, and then recovery of that trauma. And then how you've, once again, risen above that, and now you're helping others. So let's talk a bit about that and sort of what you're doing, especially too, like in your role as in the Works company.
Okay, so kind of my mission, I guess, and my vision is to support anyone going through difficult times. I want to give back and close the gap of pain and hope for anyone who's struggling in silence. I want my audiences, my clients, my members, anyone who's around me to be able to feel confident about using their voice, about facing their fear, enjoying their challenges, and allowing themselves to just be. Something that I learned was an important part of my development and success was when I allowed myself to be authentic. So through all of my work, how can we get your authenticity back, whether you're a child or an adult, through all the different opportunities I have at my business. It is the Works company. It focuses on lifestyle businesses. So whether you're 4 to 104, there is something for you, whether it's performing arts. And by that, I mean musical theatre, singing, dance, drama, exam-based classes in those subjects, or whether you're in fitness and you're older. Some of my ladies are in they're 88. They've been with us for 20 years. But it's about how they become their authentic self by eating healthily, by exercising, by understanding rest, and what they need to do mentally and emotionally to balance and stabilize themselves. So that is a really important part of my world, and I share that with anybody who wants to listen.
Yeah, and I also too, I think, just to keep going on now, like talking about the shows, like you, like what I really, and I was just saying this to you right before we went on, because I was really, like, last night I was spending time listening to some of your shows and just kind of being absorbed in the topics, because a lot of the podcasts I listen to, like, I know what I listen to, but you really tackle a lot of topics like head on, like a lot, and these are things that are very real going on in the world. Like, for instance, like I listened to the latest one you had on, on slavery, and it is, I mean, what a powerful show that was, and you really just confront these topics. Like, you don't shy away, like the taboo of it, but it's like, it needs to be talked about. It needs to be addressed. And information needs to be out there, because this is real stuff that's happening. And I think that, listen, we're all guilty of living in our own bubbles, right? Of how we, we perceive ourselves, the lives that we build around us and our lifestyle. And we kind of keep out a lot of these things until it, like, really, affects us directly. Like, it really is now in our face. But I love the awareness that you bring to this. So it's a good way to, I think, snap people out of that. So talk a bit about that, because I feel like, I mean, obviously this is a big part of your mission.
Yeah. And I think, having that voice and having that confidence and being brave, I am not afraid to tackle any conversation. I have probably faced most of the conversations I talk about. So I have an understanding. I haven't faced all of them, of course, because there's some real controversial conversations in there. But I've certainly faced a lot to know what it means. And I know how important communication means, how important sharing is. So, I also know that there'll be millions of people listening or watching, thinking this is really helping me, right? Because we are sharing stories that support the many people that are struggling in silence. So my mission is to get to those people, because I was that girl struggling in silence. I was that girl suffering and broken and, all the other things that are attached to the difficulties that I went through as a child. And I didn't have that knowledge and opportunity to have a podcast like this to listen to, right? Or a show like mine to listen to, because, I'm 48. Back in my day, we didn't have this kind of technology, and we do now, and not much of it, right? So where do you go to listen? So, I'm carving myself through with my authentic voice to give back to those struggling in silence by using my vision and mission.
Yeah,
I am totally clear why I'm doing this.
Yeah, and you have to be, because I think that otherwise you just come off as a phony. I mean, honestly, and that's the part of embracing your authentic self, and I think that's why it's so important for people to understand. Like, the power of authenticity is real. Like, it is very real, and for everybody that I think is sort of on the fence about what to use and what not to use, parts of themselves, I say, get over it and use it. Like, you got to use it. You have to use the things that you're born with, like your gifts. I mean, you have them, you possess them. Like, acknowledge them and use them. Yes.
And you know what? People don't use enough of what they have been given, because, I could easily have never done what I've done now, or written my book, or shared a podcast, or YouTube, or anything else, because I was too scared. I was like, I am that failure. My headmistress told me they wanted to get rid of me at school. I wasn't good. But actually, it wasn't me, ironically, that was the failure. It wasn't me that was the person who was going nowhere. So when I flipped it around and I understood how important it was for me to realize it wasn't me. I was never at fault through all those years. I was only an innocent child. So it allowed me to disengage, to be able to springboard forward to this point in my life where I've gone, okay, I'm 48 now, I'm 49 this year. And I now feel like I fit in my shoes. I wear my clothes the right way. I am happy because I am doing something that means something to me. And, someone said to me, never go to your deathbed with regrets. And I can certainly say for sure that's something I will never do.
Right. And I think that's a great statement to say. And I think it'd be a great thing to ask, which is, do you feel like you are where you're supposed to be right now?
Right now, yes. I am on a new journey now. I'm on a new path, and I've got my second book coming out this year, which is very exciting. So maybe later on I can come back on and share with your viewers my next book, because I believe that this is really my next book, and I can't give too much away, but it's going to be an important part of a global change for all the difficulties I went through and what I need to do to be the change. I can sleep at night because I now know I have a voice. I didn't have a voice years ago. Now I do, and I feel comfortable about it. Regardless of who's listening and who's not, I am comfortable at this point in my life for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's an amazing thing to recognize, because and that's how I feel too. And that's not to say that what I did previously before starting this new journey and my new agency, everything I came before, like, was very important, and it shaped me, it crafted me. Like, I needed to go through all that. I needed to, because it's what gave me the knowledge, the power, the confidence to do what I'm doing now, where I'm not feeling like, like I feel like the phrase of 2020 and going into 2021 here is imposter syndrome. It's like, which we all deal with, but I feel very comfortable in my own skin with this, and it is. I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be right now. Right this current time and place.
And that's good, because you've understood and recognized that, you know, there are positives that have come from your difficulties, and you've understood the power of where you are now. And imposter syndrome is really good. I had imposter syndrome. That's why I spoke up. And it really hit me hard. But, you know, again, you know, so many people suffer from imposter syndrome, and so many people do nothing about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I've been talking about a little bit, and I know a lot of people, you know, I watch them talk about it, and it's something that we all deal with. And especially, I think when you take that step and you start leaning into it and putting yourself out there, it's very easy, I think, to become intimidated by, you know, the people who have been out there doing it for as long as they have. And, you know, but I think the thing to realize is, like, they're human beings, and they didn't just get to be where they are, like, 24 hours ago. It's years of evolution.
And everybody has to start somewhere, right? So, you know, whilst you are new to it, you've also got years of experience to bring to this platform, right? And, you know, and by owning that can remind you how successful you've become. Yeah,
absolutely. And I always tell people, like, I think that the way, and this is how I deal with imposter syndrome, and I'm feeling like that self-doubt, is to, you know, embrace it and look at, you know, use it for inspiration and motivation, rather than use it the thing that's like now the negativity of, like, oh my God, like, I'm totally self-doubting myself. Like, yes, self-doubt, but deal with it as fast as possible and turn it into as much inspiration and motivation as you can, because it's just going to keep you from truly attaining what you want to do. So, and I feel like that's a lot of, you know, listening to your story and how you've embraced everything that's happened in your life and been able to turn these extremely, you know, traumatic and negative things that happened to you and find positivity and, like, turn it into, like, a ray of light, you know, I think is, it's truly amazing. And I think it speaks to the testament of, you know, human beings, you know, like, human beings are capable of such horrific things, but we're also capable of creating such beautiful things as well. It really is amazing.
And also, you know, self-doubt, I think everyone's going to get self-doubt, right? But so you've got to make that, when you make that decision, are you making it because you believe in it? Are you making it because it feels good to you? Or are you making it because someone else has told you to do that? Right. You know, if it's the latter, then you've really got to snap out of that and get away from that kind of thought process, because it's got to be about you and why you're doing this, and whatever it is, or whatever the doubt is, you know, face it, and then understand. Personally, I always think, if there's a little bit of doubt for me, where is that coming from? Emotion, is it coming from my heart space, or is it coming from my brain space? And what is that reasoning? And so I'll break it down and try and become logical through a thought process through that way. But, you know, I think it's good to remember we all have that self-doubt. We all have that kind of moment of, oh God, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And but if it, you know, and I've also had that, if I'm doing something that I'm really emotionally and passionate and engaged with, I love that kind of excitement that it brings to my life as well.
Yeah, and I love the statements you just said there. I think that's really, I think it's something that, like, I feel like anybody who's listening to this right now needs to write these down.
Yes.
Like, look at them every day, like, because it's what I do. You know, I have key statements, and I look at them every day, and it just helps me kind of get into that space and, like, reset my mindset every day. Like, I shouldn't even say reset. I think reset's the wrong word. It's refresh.
Reframe.
Refresh is a better way of saying it, for sure. Talk about your book a little bit, because I do want to talk a bit about, I don't want to breeze by also the fact that you're an author and you wrote this book, Don't Hold Back.
Yeah. So as you've already explained, I was told I was a girl going nowhere. I was told I was a failure. When I left senior school, that was how I kind of lived my life. And the truth was, at that point in my life, I appeared to be the failure, the girl going nowhere. But I'd gone down a really dark lane. I'd failed a lot of my exams. I left school with a PE, GCSE, and I had a juvenile delinquent label slapped on my back. So on paper, it wasn't looking so good for me. But my reality was so different. So I decided in 2017, after being interviewed by a magazine, Venus Women magazine, they wanted to talk about me as a businesswoman. And I was like, yeah, sure. But actually, to get to this point, I've needed to go through some difficulties. I'm going to share them. And they were like, you share what you want, EJ. So I shared just a tiny bit, just to say, look, you know, life hadn't always been so easy. And I have gone through some difficulties to be the success that, you know, I'm seen as today. And then I thought, oh, I'm not sure about this. And it went into publication. And then I thought, right, this is it. I'm going to go forward now, regardless of what happens. I thought it might car crash my career. I thought that would be it. I thought everything would be, changed. But it didn't. It only opened up my world, and it made my world a better place. So my traumatic story was then published in my book in 2018. And the book's called Don't Hold Back. So it's based on the difficulties I'd gone through. So I was sexually abused at 9 years old by a man who had befriended my family on a family holiday. At 11 years old, my biological father, who I used to see every other weekend, told me he could not see me again. And then at 13, I fell into the hands of a family acquaintance who became my friend. But unfortunately, the friendship was quite dark, and he then subjected me to lots of sexual abuse, manipulation, degrading, and torture. So through my school life, I was being groomed and abused by a family friend. I took drugs, I drank, I was bulimic, I was just so exhausted in life. I was nervous, anxious, I suffered with OCD, I had PTSD, and I was pretty broken. So I wanted to write this book because I know I am one of millions of women and men across the world who have gone through these difficulties, this sexual abuse, because I wanted to remind people that, A, they're not alone, but also there's a lot we can do, not just to be survivors, to be successful. And again, I don't mean this as a monetary term. Success to me is about having this voice now, writing my book, writing my second book, giving back that hope, giving back that opportunity through what I have learned. So it's a motivational tool book, and it's about giving back, sharing. There's tips on there. I mean, I learned the power of forgiveness, which again is very hard conversation for people who've been abused to have an understanding of. But it's not about forgetting. It's about letting go. I can't ever begin to understand why my perpetrators did what they did to me, but they clearly have other issues that I can never get close to. So I have to let them go. It was about boundaries, trust, confidence, using your voice. So there's a lot of tips in there that people can, it's like a tool book really, and it'll give people their hope. So it was how I turned my life around, and then how I became a success that I am now.
And I just want to acknowledge Matt Wolf. Matt, thank you for sharing the comment. Happy Friday. Thanks for sharing your story. I'm sure it will help many people who are struggling. Same here. It's okay to not be okay. So yes, thank you, Matt, for sharing that comment with us. And yes, it's definitely okay to not be okay.
It's such a cliche to say that, but it's so true. It absolutely is okay not to be okay, and if only people could just allow themselves to absorb that.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why, like, when I had met you, which is very recent, by the way. So if anybody thinks that Emma Jane and I have known each other for a long time, it's been very recent. And
weeks.
Yeah, and it also speaks to the power of networking and relationship building. I should actually I'm going to focus more on the relationship building side of things than networking, because I feel like networking sounds very cold and impersonal. But this all stems from the conversation we were just having about being very authentic, being yourself, and leaning into things. And for me, putting myself out there, meeting new people, having great conversations, and then being introduced to amazing people like you. Like, that doesn't happen unless you begin to really put yourself out there and enjoy the world, enjoy meeting and talking to people, because then you get connected to amazing, folks like yourself. And then you and I, we have these great dialogues and discussions, and, and here we are, and we're able to like I started this whole, and I've said this, and people who listen to the show know how I, what this is all about. And the reason why I started this whole platform was because I wanted to help other people connect to people in my network. Like, straight up, that's it. Like, at the start of COVID, the pandemic, I was like, I just wanted to do something, anything I could do. So what can I do? Well, I can at least help people share their stories to other people who I'm connected to on, like, LinkedIn. And then now it's this, and like, it's kind of expanded. And I love the ability to be able to do this and to, like, help, you share this story to just others who are in my network. So I want to thank you for coming on and doing that. And I want to thank everybody for watching. And so we do have a couple other questions here let's see. So we have Kajana Wamat. Did you let go of the relationship with your dad? And then she has a follow-up. How did you move past that?
Hi there. Thank you for asking the questions and for joining us today. I didn't. Did you let go of the relationship with your dad? If you're talking about why we disconnected, it wasn't me. I was only 11 years old. I loved my daddy. I used to go and see him every other weekend. He was my prince. He was my hero. He'd pick me up. We'd go to the sweet shop. We'd take me horse riding. We'd go home and watch Saturday night's TV here in the UK. And we just had a lot of fun. There were some rumblings going along in my family. Obviously, I am aware of those, but I wasn't aware of it all when I was 11 years old. I was just 11. I have a 12-year-old daughter. I know I can relate to her now. And then one weekend he picked me up and we were driving to the stables and he pulled over and he just said, look, I'm not sure if I can carry on with a relationship with you. You're due to see your mother on Mother's Day. The weekend, the next time I see you is Mother's Day, but it's my weekend and I want to see you. So if you want to see your mother, then I'm afraid I can't see you again, but I'm going to give you some time to think about it and then we'll talk about it. So he gave me 24 hours. He dropped me off riding and I'm like, oh, my heart's racing. I don't really get it. I was 11 years old. I'd never really understood emotion.
It's a lot for an 11-year-old to process.
Yeah. And then I remember going on the horse. The horse was called Dulcie. I remember the horse and I still have a picture of me that last day. But I was just so confused. And then the next day he said he dropped me back home. I had to say goodbye to his family, his new family. And he said, I'll call you tonight. And so when he called me tonight, he said, what's your decision? And I said, you know what? Daddy, I want to see you, but I want to see Mummy on Mother's Day. But I still want to see you. And he kind of was like, well, look, you've made your decision and, let's stay with that. And let's try and reconnect later on in life. And that was it. I mean, he put the phone down. I ran out of the house. I was terrified. I was crying. I was screaming. I just didn't really understand it. And I never saw him again. I mean, that was 37 years ago. My handsome prince, my hero, just kind of vanished from my life. And it took me years. So the question of did I let go of him? No, I didn't let go of him, but I had to let go of him emotionally. But I didn't do that until probably about, I'd say like 8-10 years, maybe 6 to 8 years ago when I started speaking up, because I still put him on this pedestal. After 11 years old, when he told me he didn't want to see me again, I'd still run to the door to see if he'd send me a birthday card and a Christmas card, or birthdays and Christmases for the next few years. And I used to watch television programs here called Surprise, Surprise, where they would reunite long lost family members. And I used to think, I wonder if I'm going to be reunited with my daddy. And I never spoke out about him because I was too scared that if I did, I might never see him again. Ironically, right. I never did see him again. So yeah. Now I'm kind of like, you know what? He ripped my soul. He ripped my heart out of my body. And in that sort of split second of that phone call, my innocence kind of just evaporated. I became very dark very quickly. And I guess that's when I was a sitting duck to my abuser. But so did I let go of him? No. And how did I think she said, how did I move past that?
Yeah, she said, how did you move past that?
I moved past that with about 30 years and millions of pounds worth of therapy to be here having this conversation. It's taken a lot for me to do this without kind of, I guess, feeling angry or emotional or sad. I don't wish him any harm. Again, I've had to forgive him as well. I tried to reconnect with him about 5 years ago, but he didn't want to know. Well, he just ignored me. So you can't keep pushing yourself onto people who treat you so badly. I've also got a fabulous stepfather who has been a wonderful man to me for all my entire life. I hadn't realized how wonderful he'd been to me until I thought I was going to lose him when I was in my 20s. He's still with us now. He's 84. And he's my best friend. And thank goodness for him, right? I mean, thank goodness for him to restore a little bit of faith in me, in mankind.
Yeah. And I think that's,
so I hope that's answered your question.
yeah, I hope so too. I mean, I feel like you answered the question for me personally, because it's something I was wondering. And I think that there's a couple of key things in there too, which is like, you also recognize that this isn't something you couldn't do alone, and you found help, and it takes time. It's like, I think that's the other thing, is to say, none of this happens overnight. You can't just get better like in a day. It takes a lot of time, and then surrounding yourself with the right people, the right energy, is very, very key to that process. And and obviously, through the therapy, and then even with your stepfather now, like, the universe always finds a way of helping out, if you let it. And I think that's a key thing there too.
Yeah, and for years I didn't want to let it, right? I hated everybody. I mean, you can't imagine it now, but I was just a vile child. I mean, I was drinking drugs. I was, how I didn't end up dead or in prison, I don't know. But I haven't drunk a drop of alcohol since I was 24. I haven't smoked, haven't done anything. I mean, I'm as clean as the whistle, right? I mean, just water, mint. This is even mint tea. And I just live a very pure and simple life, but that's come from a lot of my past as well.
Yeah, no, and I think it's like, what, and the thing is, you did it, you did that part of your life, and it's over, and now you've moved past it, and you've let the universe in, you've let these things, because it's like, and if you're not open to it, it's not gonna help you. Like, it's you want to be helped. You got to let yourself finally be open for that energy to sort of happen, and let these things, the universe, help take over. But if you're not there, like, it's just not going to work. And then, like you said, like, finally, you rejected it for those years, but now you let it open, let it into your life, and now you've been able to move on from these events.
Yeah, I feel like, obviously, having been first sexually abused and rejected and abandoned by my father, what I've taken and what I've learned from this is about sharing what I need to share to give other people their hope. And I couldn't have done this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or even 15 years ago, because I was too traumatized, and I was still too worried about upsetting the wrong people. But actually, through all of that life, I mean, the only person who was car crashed was me, emotionally and mentally and physically. And so now it's really about, sharing that important message of, you can get through this. You have a voice. There is a lot of support out there for you. If you can just tap into that and realize your worth. I will never try and second guess why people have treated me the way they treated me. I was just a child. Their own selfishness, or whatever else you want to call it, has led them down the path that they've led them down to. But, as children, we need to protect kids now. We need to protect young generations, young hearts, to move forward positively.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I did just share Alex's quote, and I just wanted to acknowledge it. So, the more we are given the opportunity to share our stories, the more we break down the stigma surrounding mental health issues. And Chris, I only met EJ an hour ago, and she is.
Thanks, Alex. Alex is a remarkable woman. She does a lot of work with mental health for men in the UK. So you'd be great to chat to her, Chris, because she does a lot. She's an advocate for men's mental health, and she works on a radio station here in the UK. She's an amazing woman. But thank you, Alex, for sharing that. It's been a real pleasure to get to know you as well.
Oh, brilliant! That's excellent. So, as we're coming down to the end here, I do want to give you the opportunity to also, is there other things that you'd like to address? Is there something else that you want people to really know and understand about what you're trying to do, or, how they can even reach out to you? Because I know, you're also, you're a keynote speaker. You're out there. You're helping people. Like, at the start, we talked about all the shows that you're doing and bringing awareness to all these different topics and things going on in the world. Like, how, what do you want people to really take away from this interview?
So, through all the years and all the support and therapy and trauma and difficulties that I went through, one of the things that I took away was how important it is that we live our fresh life. And so if I was to say to you, Chris, what does well-being mean to you? One word, right? You could think of probably a million words to describe well-being. So what I've described well-being as now is balance. And by balance, I mean, I want people to understand how important it is to be mentally, emotionally, and physically balanced. So think of yourself as a 3-piece pie chart. One piece of you is mental health, one piece of you is emotional well-being, and the other one is physical health. So if one of those is out of kilter, it doesn't just work. If it's not full or you're not working very well, have a look at what's going on around you. So are you emotionally well? Are you talking? Are you listening? Are you understanding? You don't need to go on a stage to do this. You don't even need to go on a magazine, on a social media platform, but just finding someone to talk to, maybe a therapy session or a friend, because talking was a real powerful tool to my emotional health. And it allowed me to think differently. I thought my pain would never end. It just seemed relentless, but it was definitely worth then facing, because I felt empowered by talking, because this allowed me to own my pain and my difficulties and so on. And the mental health, again, how do we describe mental health? If I said to you, Chris, mental health, we band it around all over the world, right? What does those 2 words mean to you? I'm not going to put you on the spot, don't worry. But what do those 2 words mean? And if we ask your audience now, what do those 2 words mean? For me, I believe it's how we recognize our own ability and how we cope during any situation. I coped very badly for many years. I didn't recognize my ability because it had been, I've been told I was just this failure. So I certainly didn't cope very well. But when I aligned my mental health and went to therapy, went to find out a little bit more about, my journey, it allowed me to think differently. And then finally, it's looking at your physical well-being. So that is, how you're sleeping, how you're eating, how you're resting. Roger Federer sleeps 12 hours a day, right? He's a high achiever. We can all learn from that. I don't sleep very much, but I am making myself sleep more since I found out about Roger Federer. He's a high achiever. So are you listening? Are you talking? Are you sleeping? Are you eating well? Because all of these things, let me tell you, work really well together. I didn't eat very well. I took drugs. I drank. I smoked. I was living a wild life, and I wasn't in good shape. Now I am in good shape mentally, emotionally, and physically. So if I can share anything with today's listeners, it's to say, look, you are okay. You are worth it, and you are loved. And more than that, you have got to remember your balance, emotional, mental, and physical balance. It's really important. If you're not aligned, your pieces of pie aren't full, it's not going to work. I'm now 49 this year, and it's been a real slog to get to this point. But I share these secrets because I want to help others close their gap of pain and find their success sooner.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all that amazing information, amazing insight, and thank you for sharing your story with all of us, and and being finding the courage to do so. And and I'm glad. I'm just so happy to hear once again, like the big takeaway I always get, especially from someone like you, is finding that strength and really being able to turn these really traumatic events that happen to you and find the positivity in them, where it could feel like a real black hole, I'm sure, but yet you found light in the darkness and you made it into something. You turned it into something wonderful, and you're not keeping it to yourself, which is also you're sharing that with everybody else and bringing everybody along for the journey, helping people. And I find that truly spectacular, amazing. And, so bravo to you for doing that.
Thank you, Chris. And bravo for you for doing this too.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And
you rock it.
Yes, I try. I try to rock it every single day. That's what I absolutely try to do. And, I do my best. I try to play my part, and I do my best to do the best of my ability every day to help people. If I can make myself and somebody else 1% better today than they were yesterday, then, mission accomplished. That's it. So I'm hoping that by having you come on today and people listening to this, that if they found, answers, hope, light, ideas, anything that could make them 1% better today, then I am a better person then for having done that to help someone else today.
Oh, you've done an amazing job, and I think what you're doing is incredible, and just don't stop being amazing.
I certainly will not. So thank you. And definitely talking to people like you keep me absolutely inspired and motivated every day to keep, bringing it and doing my best. So I want to thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you for everybody who watched today, and we'll watch the replay, and we'll also listen to the audio version of this later on in a few weeks when I put it out as an audio podcast. And so real quick before we split, and I've had the website up here, but what's the best way that people can reach out to you, or where can they connect with you? Where are you active? Like, what are your socials? All that.
So if you, I'm EmmaJaneTaylor.com obviously is my website. I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. If you go to my website, you'll find all the links to everything there. I kind of different platforms for different thing. On Twitter, I very much talk about being a sexual abuse survivor and how my journey and your journey, and we can collaborate and become an army to success. Instagram, I share my story. Facebook is motivation, and LinkedIn is my business success. So, you can find me wherever you want and go to wherever you want to be engaged in conversation with me on those subjects. But yeah, go to the website, and that's the best place for me. And I'll talk to anybody, right? I mean, I'm easy. I can talk to anyone about anything. And just lately, I've been getting a lot of people who've been abused and are surviving, contacting me and sharing their stories, which I'm absolutely honored to be able to listen and give back what I've learned.
Yeah, and I think that is amazing. So thank you so much for sharing with everybody today. And once again, thank you everybody so much for watching. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share this video, subscribe wherever you're watching or will be listening to this. And we will see you guys and everybody, we'll see everybody next Tuesday for another episode of Rocket Live, 4 p.m. EST. And thank you, Emma, for coming on and making some time with us today. And I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Cheers, everybody. And remember, always be authentic, always be yourself, and always remember to rock it.